The appointed Human Settlements Minister, Mmamoloko Kubayi, has been touring provinces to investigate the state of housing in the country. She joins me now to unpack the state of human settlements and social housing in the country. To be a part of the conversation tonight, send your questions for the Minister right away. 072-110-5584. Tweet us tonight at Newzroom 405. Minister, good evening and thank you very much for your time. Let's first take a bird's eye view. Hardly, probably, 40 days in office or so, or maybe slightly more. What have you seen? I mean, is it right that the Department of Human Settlements has continually underspent the funds that are meant to deliver houses to the people, yet many of the provinces in the country have massive backlogs of service delivery? What is behind this underperformance?
Good evening, Thabo. Good evening to your listeners. I think let's start by, as you say, tributes to the Mayor of Johannesburg, Joliti Madongo, joining South Africans as we mourn the loss of a great public representative who was championing the plight of poverty-stricken areas in terms of making sure that we pay attention. Recently was in visiting human settlement areas to bring to our attention what is facing the residents of Johannesburg. So we pay our tribute to him and we pass our condolences to his family and friends and comrades. Indeed, Thabo, as we've been visiting the provinces with the team, specifically for myself to learn about the portfolio, but understand the challenges, not from a point of sitting in the office and reading the reports, but being on the ground and seeing for myself what is happening. When we sit with the financial performance, we do an assessment to see as we go in terms of third quarter, all the provinces, and then we look whether we're seeing trends of spending, whether we'll be able to improve it, whether there's commitment, contractual commitments. And indeed, as I analyze the past 5 years, for example, in terms of human settlement, there's been underspending. Treasury Minister, National Finance Minister raised it with me together with his team. I had a one-on-one with him. And he said, we will cut your budget if the continued underspending is a trend. And I've said to him, we'll have to work around the clock to ensure that we turn that around together with the MECs in provinces, because many people are actually looking for houses. As you say, there's a huge backlog, and actually the target continues to be a moving target for us.
Let's talk then about the immediate province that you visited, the Eastern Cape, Nelson Mandela Bay. 50 million has been allocated to build close to about 365 houses, yet not a cent has been spent, not a single house has been built. Why? What is behind that?
I actually visited Buffalo City, not Nelson Mandela Bay. I actually had 2 visits in terms of the district and also the Buffalo City. In terms of Nelson Mandela Bay, we are engaging with the province. Part of what the province is raising with us is the issue where you find as national department, we have direct link with municipalities, especially the metros, where we give them resources to be able to build, and you find that based on the capacity or some of the challenges, then you find that there isn't a spending. One of the things, Thabo, that we are picking up is that in municipalities where there's been instability in terms of leadership, we've seen regression in terms of performance, where either municipalities are led by a coalition. For example, as we came out of 2016 elections, many municipalities, as they went into coalition, you find that the new party that is ruling at that time then starts putting plans off to say this belongs to a past party and therefore they do not continue with those. And that actually hampers on the service delivery and the commitments that have been made based on human settlements and to the citizen. Similarly, the changes that have been constant in Nelson Mandela Bay, we seem to see them as a trend that impacts negatively on the service delivery of that municipality.
Yeah, and how are you planning to intervene?
One of the things that we're looking at mostly to get the province to assist in those municipalities. But in other provinces, for example, when we look at KZN, what they have done, KZN, where municipalities were not able to perform, the province took a decision to take the powers of delivery in terms of being implementing agents, and they drove the process. And that's why we're seeing them quite being, and as I have said previously, being the lead in terms of the for performance in terms of human settlement. So that's what we want to see in Eastern Cape. We are continuously having conversations with the MEC as we did. There's a follow-up meeting that I will have I have an indication that the ESCO has decided that they would want me to present some of the issues and interventions specifically for Eastern Cape so that we can intervene decisively. We do have some delivery vehicles such as HDA that we can be able to intervene. So we'll work together with the province, not what do I say, the right word, not to dictate to provinces because we are partners. And as you know, human settlement is a concurrent function. So we have to work with the province to find solutions for the areas of non-performance.
All right, let's talk about that question of not dictating. 3 provinces didn't get their grants. They were withheld, one of them being the Eastern Cape, the other one, the Northwest, as well as the Free State. Let's stay in the Eastern Cape for now because that's where we are. What was the cause for non-compliance, and how are those challenges being addressed?
Now, I'm not so sure, Thabo, which grant are you referring to? We're giving quite a number of grants.
I'm talking about the Provincial Emergency Housing Grant.
No, we don't have any province that we didn't give them the grants.
That's the report that Parliament was looking at when you were presenting your APPs. They're saying those 3 provinces, particularly, you withheld their grant transfers. What was the cause for their non-compliance?
No, in terms of you can withhold completely the grant. Maybe just to explain, what you do, you redirect the grants. It's not allowed that you can withhold. Part of the issue, for example, let me just explain. If you look at the current financial year, if they do not perform, then you redirect the funds to where you think that the province will be able to perform. You can't completely withdraw. So you give at the beginning of the financial year to say this is what you are going to be given to be able to spend. What I have as a report is that during the financial year last year, because we've had bilaterals with the MEC in Eastern Cape, then during the financial year, it was within the 2nd and 3rd quarter last financial year, it was determined that Eastern Cape will not be able to finish and spend within the times that is expected the money, and therefore that money was taken and sent to other provinces, not completely that they were not allocated the funds. So you look at their spending pattern, because if we do not spend, and you find that, for example, Eastern Cape is sitting with the resources, and then Western Cape, for example, will have more need in terms of that area, and you might not have allocated enough resources, then you have the powers as the Minister and the Department of Human Settlement nationally, that you are able to redirect the funds to another province, a mid-term, where we do adjustments in terms of budgets.
Now, there is, of course, an issue being raised by lawmakers in Parliament when it comes to a department of the over-drastic, shall I say, increase in allocations when you're talking about the use of consultants and businesses and advisory service. Now, you know this has already been flagged as a fruitless waste, particularly if you're continuing to pay salaries of the employees who are in government. Why the over-reliance in consultants?
There are quite a number of things that we are looking at, Thabo, I must say up front. To a certain extent, yes, there is use of consultant, and where there is excessive, I mean, I've been able to say we need to build capacity internally, and then there's areas where you can't do without consultants, and I'm going to just explain. One, in terms of technical capacity, for example, if you want to do planning, you want to do scoping. So normally that's what you do as professional fees within the built environment. That is consistent with what happens globally. You'd have to continue to do that because you can't build such skills. It's quite expensive to keep such skills within the department. So you continuously, as you build, you go and do geotech, environmental. So there's quite a number of skills that would not be within the department, and it's acceptable to have those. But where there is areas, for example, one of the things that I've taken a decision as a minister is the National Rapid Response Team, which I've taken a decision that I will dissolve. It's not necessary. I know Parliament had raised an issue. What I've done is that I've transferred the responsibility into the Department of Human Settlement within our IGR unit, and those resources will be utilized into that. Again, one of the things that we are looking at, for example, when I arrived, the team briefed me that they've got about 33 personnel that they're looking at as consultant to support the work. What I've requested is that we are going to look at it based on the needs and the capacity of the department, because I do not think that it's necessary to have, for example, somebody supporting in terms of entity oversight, because that is the skill that needs to be within the department and we'll have to build in. Part of the challenge, though, we have to accept is that there is employee, for example, compensation ceiling that is set by Treasury, which limits in terms of the capacity you can have in the department. So where you have shortage of skills, then you'll have to go out and get those skills on contractual basis. So it's not holistic in terms of generalization, but there are various areas where there are necessary concerns that we do agree with, or I do agree with as a minister. I have been able to pay attention to those areas. But where there's technically the need for that special resource and actually the expertise that we cannot be able to house as the department, then we go out and get them.
Is that a generalized cost, Minister, or are you able to tell us as per these APP presentations for 2020, 2021? Because it was COVID time. Naturally, we were not that busy as far as projects are concerned, yet one of the programs in terms of goods and services increased from 75 million to 99 million, 25% increase, largely driven by consultants. Yes, you need them, but yet you find that the employee compensation is also still pretty much at the same level. I mean, what is the real item there that you were paying for?
Look, the issue of, yes, the employee relation and versus the task, that's what I'm saying, Thabo. When you look at, for example, because I would have to look exactly which area you're talking about in terms of that line item so that I can respond directly in terms of that, because as you look, I'll have to check within there. I can see you are quoting the APP. I'll have to reflect on it and see which one line item specifically so that I can be specific. But in terms of generic, in terms of this employee, just to explain, with the employee compensation, that's what I'm saying, you would have your normal employees. One of the challenges we've had over time, and government, we've been able to say, building on the capacity of the state to be able to deliver on these services. You'd find that we'll have more administrative capacity as departments and not have technical expertise that we need. One of the important things is to be able to say as a department, let's have, for example, your engineering skills. Let's have, for example, your technical skills in terms of planning, project managers. It's important for us to do that. So one of the things that I've prioritized now, for example, one of the vacancies in or a branch that has been established that needs resources and that needs capacity, it's around the issue of dealing with informal settlement. So you can't have a person, for example, who's just done a generic degree to come and deal with that, because it has to do with spatial planning. It has to do with geotech in terms of being able to understand when you get reports, even if you get an external person to do the work, because you will not be able to do all the work. That's why you have to appoint contractors to do this work. You've got to have people who are going to be able to do that. So that's one of the things that we're looking at, Thabo. We will, as we do the report and planning going forward, make sure that we improve on the work that we have done. Yes, based on COVID last year, we have been impacted upon as the department in terms of the APP that has been presented this year, this financial year by Minister Sisulu. We continue to implement it based on the inputs by Parliament, and that's what we are committed to doing. But where there is an issue for us, and I'll say this, Thabo, I've been very consistent as a minister around transparency and accountability. If there's areas where we feel, or when we analyze now, and feel that they will actually become wasted, we'll be able to stop them.
Right, Minister, let me, before we go to break, just get clarity and finality on this. What you are saying is that there is no possibility of capacitating the department when it comes to those particular skills. So you're always going to have to spend on consultants.
Not 100%. I'm saying, Thabo, there will be areas where you are able to spend. Remember, we have employees currently. Now, those employees, whatever the skills they have, you continue to have them. Now, if, for example, you need engineers, and you do not have internally engineers because you've got these employees, part of what I'm doing, as I'm saying that one of the things that we are looking at, there was a restructuring in the department. I've asked the team to give me a restructuring report, whether the people have been placed against position on the basis of their qualification so that they can assist us. We do have quite good technical people in the department who have even have their PhDs in planning, in infrastructure and all those things that we should be able to utilize as the department. But I'm saying it's not 100% that you would have all the skills that you need in the department. Therefore, there will be a percentage of outsourcing. But as we agreed as government that we need to build capacity in the department, therefore, if we are to use skills outside, it has to be at a minimum level and it has to be justifiable.
Human Settlements Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi, staying with us. We'll continue in a moment. We'll go to KZN, which mentioned as one of the provinces that are performing rather well. There are some challenges there. We'll get to ask some of those questions. Then our conversation continues with Human Settlements Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi. To be a part of the conversation tonight, you need to send us your messages via WhatsApp 072-110-5584, or you can tweet us tonight at Newzroom 405. Before the break, of course, we're mentioning some of the bottlenecks that need to be definitely dealt with. So, Minister, are you saying what exactly is going to happen with the task team? You're going to disband it? Has it been disbanded? Or you're thinking about it?
Which one, Thabo, we talking about? The National Rapid Response Task Team?
Yes, the National Rapid Response Task Team.
No, yes, that one we have definitely dissolved it. Its term of office came to an end on the 15th of September 2021. We have decided to transfer the responsibility to the department.
Talking of disbanded entities and the NDA in particular, what's the challenge there? I mean, did you have a handover with your predecessor? Was it clear? She says there was a meeting that concurred on the 4th of August that there is a board there. You come in, you advertise the board. What's the challenge?
It's actually HDA, Housing Development Agency.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the handover didn't happen. We had scheduled it, and then Minister Sisulu then had an emergency. And as we know, then there was a bereavement that he had to take compassionate leave. So we've not been able to do the handover. Secondly, I would not discuss issues of cabinet in terms of discussion, whether there's discussion that happened and all that. You would know that when cabinet has taken a decision, cabinet announces its decision. And you would know from public view that there has never been a decision from cabinet that was communicated to the public that there is a board that has been appointed. That's why, as the minister, I arrived, I found an administrator, and I have decided that the administrator that was appointed by Minister Sisulu continues. And out of that, then we have advertised for the board to be filled. The process is going to go to cabinet for cabinet to appoint and also to announce.
So as far as you're concerned, that process continues. You are continuing with that advertising and that
we have advertised for all the boards that we have advertised. Today is the closing date. And out of that process, we'll take it through the necessary process. And finally, the announcement of those boards will be done by cabinet.
What about the extensive?
That's the correct.
What about the extensive process that your predecessor is said to have undergone? You're just going to disregard that?
Which extensive? Thabo, as I'm saying, if there is a decision of a cabinet, I'm not going to discuss things that are not supposed to be discussed in public. But all I'm saying for public consumption is that cabinet, if it has made a decision, cabinet will announce its decision. As we see it, there is no decision announced by cabinet of a board of HDA, and therefore I'm within the correct measures and correct procedure within the legal framework as Minister of Human Settlement to appoint a board, and that process is what I've outlined.
All right, let's talk then about the budget cuts at the HDA. Is it true that the budget cut is coming to close to 56 billion rands? And how are they then supposed to function with those kind of limitations?
We're talking about which financial year?
2020, 2021.
2020, 2021. Yeah. I'll have to check. But my understanding is that with HDA currently functions. Where we have a challenge is that there's a gap of leadership. Provinces have raised concerns around performance of HDA. In terms of HDA, more in terms of its responsibility, HDA is able to even get resources from provinces where it becomes an implementing agent to deliver the services for the provinces in terms of building, in terms of consulting, in terms of making sure that they plan the projects. One of the issues that have been raised with me by provinces is that you find that there are challenges in terms of delivery time frames from HDA, and that's why we're paying attention. But secondly, in the last financial year, there's been as well, from the department point of view, there's challenges of where you find provinces when they see that they're not going to be able to spend. Provinces then send money on to HDA on the fourth quarter, which leads to treasury withdrawing that money and saying it's unspent. It's not spent, and therefore it goes back to Treasury. So some of the issues we are already paying attention to. We are having conversations with the provinces, and that's why the priority is to make sure that we fill the vacancies of the board so that the board can appoint full-time CEO and full-time CEO who can be able to take the responsibility of running, but also ensuring that all the other avenues in terms of the work of the department continues.
Yeah.
The work of the entity continues.
Now, you mentioned this question of poorly implemented or incomplete projects. Some of the projects that you also encountered in Buffalo City in your walkabout there. What are you going to do, Minister, as far as that is concerned? What is the right thing to do to ensure that projects are completed to the level that they're supposed to be, but also they're completed on time?
Firstly, we have appealed to all the contractors that are contracted with us, whether with provinces and also with our entities or any delivery implementing agent, to ensure that they complete the work, because it impacts on our delivery time frames, it impacts on our targets. But secondly, what we have started to have a conversation, I've asked the team in the department to review the clauses of penalties in the contracts. We'll take, once they've done this, we'll consult with Minister of Justice to ensure that they are tight enough and they can be able to almost what we can call, they can bite. Part of my experience as a minister, you find that from government, when we put penalty clauses, it's those clauses that take forever to implement. For example, it will prescribe that you must write a letter to a person warning, and then after a month you must write another letter. After 3 months, then it's only that you can try and go for mediation. After mediation, that's when we do. That is not going to help us. So one of the things that we want to tighten up is to ensure that the penalty clauses are able to be enforceable, firstly, but also can be able to help us to recover in terms of the resources that we lose if an implementing agent does not deliver.
Now, you mentioned
so that work has started, and I've said to the team, they will have to also, in their performance agreements, when we sign for the new financial year, we'll also include this for DG, and it will cascade to the DDGs.
Right, Minister. You mentioned now earlier on that KwaZulu-Natal, as far as their performance, seemingly doing better, I suppose, than other provinces, not necessarily without glitches, but certainly doing better with, as compared to other provinces. One of the issues that was raised sharply with you when you were there was the question of increasing the amounts that are used to build houses. They're saying that the current amounts are not sustainable anymore as far as the businesses in KwaZulu-Natal are concerned. What's your response to that?
Yeah, indeed, that has been raised with us by the MEC when we visited KZN. Specifically, KZN, for example, they've had a month of shutdown in terms of performance. Some of the materials were looted, the stores were shut down, and all those things, material were lost. What they are saying is that the cost of building has gone up. And what they have asked us as part of the recovery of after the riots is to be able to intervene and increase the quantum for them to be able to perform their work, but also meet their targets. We have committed through the DG when it was there, committed that we will look into this, and then I will have to approve. We're waiting for the team to finalize the processes, engagement, because you must quantify the work with KZN in terms of the need. One of the things I've disagreed with the team is when the team was saying KZN must be able to implement the quantum increase within the current budget. I don't think it's fair from my side, because when you look at, if you are to say they must utilize the quantum, increase the quantum within their own budget now, it means that they have to reduce their targets. And what happens to the projects that are already committed? So it's not a solution. So we are still working. I've committed to the MEC that I will work to ensure that this happens. We are working, and we are trying to find where we'll get the resources to support them.
I see your questions already coming through on social media. We'll get to those in a moment and put them to the Minister. Keep them coming, 072-110-5584. These are questions on sustainable human settlements as well as social housing, directly to the Minister, issues that you would like for her to address. Minister, before the break, we were also talking KwaZulu-Natal and the challenges that province is facing. Now, grants in general from the lawmakers, it seems as though they are quite exposed at this time, particularly with the budget cuts that have come with COVID-19. And one of the things that provinces are doing, seemingly, and KwaZulu-Natal being one of them, is to shift the grant funds to pay employee salaries. How are you dealing with that challenge?
Thabo, I'm not aware of any province, including KwaZulu-Natal, that is shifting the grants to pay employees. From where I'm sitting with my engagement with the MEC, we are on course in terms of implementing our program, and our targets are on set. Despite even having a month of delay, KwaZulu-Natal seems to be on the path of recovery to be able to implement, and that's why they asked us to assist them with the quantum. With regards to that, I'm not so sure which specific, I'm not aware, not the grants that we allocate. My understanding is that our grants are ring-fenced, are not meant to be utilized for anything else except what we have dedicated them for.
Yeah, this is a question, of course, that was raised by the Democratic Alliance to the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements around the KwaZulu-Natal province using grant funds to pay salaries because of the cuts in budgets or because of COVID-19. So you're saying you are not aware of that having happened?
No, I have interacted with the MEC. As you know, we were in KwaZulu-Natal. There is no such from KwaZulu-Natal Department of Human Settlement. I would have to check that specific area. I've not interacted with Parliament, by the way, Thabo. So I will get it from, and in the issues that I've been dealing with, perhaps being written, letters or messages from opposition parties or members of Parliament, that has not arisen. So where I'm sitting in terms of KwaZulu-Natal Human Settlement Department, they've never taken money from human settlement grants to pay salaries.
All right. Let's stay with that question of grants. The Western Cape reported to have spent 350 million of the grant on security against land invasions. Do you know about that?
Yeah, the issue of security, I think it's an issue that one is paying attention to. For example, when you build houses, and that's why one of the things that we have taken a decision, even when I was in Mshwati, in KZN, for example, that immediately you build, allow people to occupy their houses. Don't wait for a formal handover of the ceremony and all those things. Once a house is built, whether it's 50, get people to go in, because we start to spend a lot of money in protecting the properties against looting, against invasion, against illegal occupants. So that is one of the things that we started to pick up on the portfolio, that we are increasing the spending in terms of security. Understandably so, because you want to make sure that when a house is being built and a beneficiary has been identified, is notified that you are going to be a beneficiary in this project, you want to make sure that those people become the beneficiaries, not illegal occupants that go there and then it becomes difficult to take them out. So that's one of the things that has been happening. Part of the issue, for example, we have land that is identified for human settlement, and then you find that because you do not want invasion, and because once people invade in the land, then it takes longer to get people out. But one of the things you are saying, let's utilize, if it's a land, let's ensure that we build faster, we build quicker and allocate to people. If it's land that is, for example, service stands that needs to be given to people, let's give them so that people can build. One of the things, Thabo, somebody was sharing with me, that we need to learn from Singapore model. Singapore actually gets citizens to be involved in the model of ownership of the properties, but participatory in the process. And I said, I'm going to study this so that I can see how we do civic education, so that once we say to people, be part of this solution, because government can't find solutions alone. Government will have to bring the society, the beneficiaries themselves, to be part of this process, so that if it's a house and it's a project, all of us are beneficiaries in this project. We must help government to protect that project until it's finished, so that as the rightful owners, we are able to have the houses, not the illegal immigrants, illegal people that go, sorry, not illegal immigrants, the illegal occupants that goes and occupy the properties, either it's land and all that. That can only be won 100% with society being involved and assisting us in government, because the spending on security, I must say, it is increasing.
Yeah. Let's talk then a little bit more about that land allocation. We got a tweet coming through asking particularly that question on land allocation and how the department actually makes the decision. Musutu saying, please ask the minister, why does the ANC lead municipalities still sell empty sites to these big property developers instead of selling directly to the people? Because there are people that can buy and build for themselves. Not everyone wants an RDP house.
Actually, we have that program. I think the viewer is not aware. We have different programs that we run as the Department of Human Settlement. We have what we provide, what we know as RDPs. So we provide for the people who do not have indigent as per the Constitution. So you must be able to provide them with shelter as the Constitution commits. So those are what we provide. Secondly, you would have those that, for example, who are able to, and we do provide with service stands where people can build. We do have that program as the Department of Human Settlement. Also the issues around title deeds. We also have a program, for example, Thabo, where we build houses to let. So people who say, I do not want to buy, I do not want to own an RDP, but I'm looking for low-cost rentals. We do have those that we also provide as the Department of Human Settlement. But secondly, again, thirdly, we do have, for example, we partner with private sector properties where we assist, we provide a grant so that we can bring the cost down. We also have low-cost houses where a person, for example, can apply through our FLIPS program, where you apply and then you get a grant, you are able to get a low-cost house in terms of bonded. So we support you to be in terms of getting low-cost bonded houses. So I want to say to the viewers, we do run different programs that we have as the Department of Human Settlement, not only around RDPs, because we've learned that for us to be able to meet the targets, to meet the demands that we have, we've got to acknowledge that we've got different categories of people with different needs, and we've got to be able to respond to those things. For example, somebody will be living in rural area having a house. When they come to an urban area, they want to work, but they're just looking for a place to rent. Yesterday, I was doing door-to-doors in Secunda. One of the things I've come out with, we have decided in this area, it's called a Mandela village. We've decided to build RDPs. So we've built RDPs for the stands. But what is now popular is that within the stands, you're finding a lot of shacks inside because the people who are there are renting. So they say either they want stands, but some of them are just there because you have your Sasol and others. They are there to work. They don't want to own properties there because they're coming from different areas. So they are saying if we can provide low-cost rentals for us, we'll be able to rent and therefore not able to stay in this yard where it's an RDP with 6 shacks and therefore create a problem of services where lights, electricity can't carry because the number of occupants there in that community are more than what has been budgeted. So we're looking at various interventions, and that's what we are communicating as well, and we will continue to increase our communication so that South Africans can know what we are offering.
Now, in terms of the annual performance plans, which you said, of course, were put forward by your predecessor, and you're correct, because that happened, I think, around April or maybe even May, and you're saying you will adopt that. Part of the questions that are being raised are around the reduction of certain targets. For example, housing units from 450,000 now to 300,000. What's the rationale? What's the thinking, and why are you reducing those targets?
You'd understand, Thabo, that government, because we had to prioritize the allocation of resources to departments such as health, specifically to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, to increase this, the allocation as government to Department of Social Development, to be able to provide social relief in terms of COVID relief fund of the 350 and also the grants. And that's what has led to the entire government and the various departments receiving cuts. So what we plan in terms of numbers of what we can be able to deliver, it's on the basis of the money and the financial allocation that we've got.
And as far as the backlogs then of title deeds, how is that impacted?
Look, the backlog is there. We do have different types of backlogs. And the challenge of backlogs with title deeds, it's not only around the finances, I must admit. It's also around what we take as decisions within government. I've had a conversation, and part of why I visit various provinces to have this conversation with mayors as well as MECs. The problem with this is that, for example, to be able to give a title deed, when we say we are formalizing a settlement and declare it a settlement, municipalities have criteria of what needs to be there for you to be able to offer. For example, they'll put to say there must be electricity, which is justifiable, there must be water, there must be street lights, there must be roads. Now, some of these things do not fall within the ambit of what the Department of Human Settlement has to do. So municipalities themselves will put things that they also do not have budget to be able to deliver, and therefore that, because some of the things that are on the list of being having to be ticked to say they comply with formalization of a settlement. And you find that if they do not comply, the settlement can't be formalized, and therefore you can't issue title deeds. So the challenge there mainly is not even around finances more, but around how we do the issue of formalization of settlements. And that I'm having a conversation with the municipalities, and we are requesting them to review that so that we can be able to issue title deeds. For example, there is no need for us to withhold title deeds when a requirement of street lights is not yet there. We can give title deeds to residents, declare the area as a settlement, and give those title deeds, especially in areas where it's informal settlements that we want to formalize, and it's also the pre-1994 title deeds that we've got to be able to offer.
Yeah. So you're saying a large number of the backlogs are around township establishment. What is the issue? Why are municipalities having challenges with township establishment? Is it because they just fail to focus on the right areas? Is it because they don't have capacity to do that? What's the challenge?
Mainly will be two things from my observation. Firstly, it's the financial resources to be able to meet the obligation of what they've put as the requirement to be able to establish that settlement. Secondly, will be the capacity, because you need the whole planning unit that has technical capacity to be able to do that. So you'd find certain municipalities do not have those capacity, and you find they have limited staff that have to deal with all of us, including private sector, in terms of the applications that we do, and therefore they take long to be able to process those.
And how do we address that then, Minister? Are you saying the way to address that is to, I suppose, loosen the tight restrictions on what is declared a township?
Part of it is to loosen the restrictions, but also to work together as both national, province, and municipality in terms of our priority. One of the things that we are seeing is that you find that there's misalignment of the work that we do, and through the district development model, we will be able to start doing that and getting that assistance. So we do believe that the DDM model provides an opportunity for us to resolve these bottlenecks.
Human Settlements Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi with us tonight. Focus on sustainable human settlements, and we are in conversation tonight with the Minister of Human Settlements, Mmamoloko Kubayi, and you're a part of this conversation tonight on Twitter. I see some of your questions coming through as well for the Minister. Let's take this one as well from Mavo Ste around what's happening in KZN, and it's the question, Minister, around the eviction of families there in KwaZulu-Natal. The question says, please ask the Minister about the rampant illegal evictions, especially in Siyahlala in Newcastle in KwaZulu-Natal, where about 100 families were evicted by shack dwellers since October 2020. Where are the red ends? Local authorities and the municipality have not helped.
Yeah, that specific, I'll have to check with the MEC of KwaZulu-Natal. I'm not aware of it specifically in terms of the evictions. I don't want to misfire and answer indirectly. I should be able to look at it. Possibly I'll follow on the tweet and give the response then.
All right, Minister. One from Les. Can you ask the Minister if she will support the establishment of a state construction company? What is the plan around that, and what is the plan around the abandoned and hijacked buildings in the inner cities? And how to access rural subsidies?
I think, let me start with the issue around the abandoned buildings. Urban renewal is very important, and I think one of the discussions that we've been having, both with MEC Maile as I visited Gauteng and part of what we had as discussion with MEC Sibiya. This, and also to a large extent with MEC in KwaZulu-Natal, in Eastern Cape. What we are looking at, for example, is the urban renewal projects that have been there. For example, you know that there have been urban renewal projects, but also inner city projects. For example, if you look at the city of Johannesburg, started a program around rejuvenating the cities. That's why you have Newtown the way it is, because it does provide an opportunity for us to look at it and see how best we can do. So we'll pay attention to that. Statistician General has given us the figures to say more and more you are seeing people migrating from rural areas, especially in semi-urban, to more urban areas. And that migration means that we need to be able to pay attention. As I said earlier on, what we are seeing is that majority of the people are coming for opportunities in the inner cities, urban areas, and specifically not looking for a permanent accommodation. So part of what we are looking at is to be able to see what opportunities exist for us to be able to build rentals in inner cities where people can be able to, one, they will provide safe areas. For example, if you are to build rentals within the buildings, you go and demolish the buildings that are dilapidated in Johannesburg, work together with Johannesburg in the inner city around Hillbrow side. You should be able to get decent areas and get people to be able to rent properly. That work has started, for example, in Johannesburg. We'll be able to carry it in, and we'll look in other provinces and see how best we'll be able to rejuvenate our inner cities, because they do provide an opportunity for resolving the challenges that we have, not only on housing, but also of safety in our urban areas and inner cities that we have. In terms of rural areas, we do have programs that we run in terms of building. You'd note that within the rural areas, you'll have that when you look at the communities, you find that they have land that they have, but they need, some of them just need bulk infrastructure that we'll have to bring. Secondly, others will say we'll need an RDP. But part of what we were saying, we'll look at it, and we are having a conversation with Minister Titis, is to say perhaps even as part of ensuring that we provide food security, as we build these RDPs in the communities where there is land that is available, let's ensure that we assist them to have a vegetable garden and a food tree. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. So we do have programs for rural areas that are running currently. One of them I visited when I was in the Eastern Cape. We've been to KZN in the most deep rural areas where we were handing over the houses in the communities. And part of the program around there, one of the things when we went to Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma municipality, we were able to see and showcase that communities actually can be able to participate and build the human settlements and build the houses for themselves. So part of that program that we are doing is to be able to bring different intervention. And as I said previously, is that once you deal with provinces, you can't do a one-size-fits-all program. You've got to be able to adjust and understand, for example, in Gauteng, you can be able to build mega cities. They will work, they will respond. But when you have most remote rural areas, therefore, you've got to be able to respond in a particular manner.
State construction company, another SOE, I suppose.
Oh, yes,
many people will have all sorts of ideas around that.
No, with the Department of Human Settlement, we do not have that plan. I think it should be with Minister Dilip. I think she'll be best to answer that. Ours, in terms of the entities that we have, we're keeping them. The only one that currently we're working on is the NHFC, but we're working to become a human settlement bank. We've received the approval from the South African Reserve Bank, together with National Treasury. So we are on course on that one.
And how will that bank work?
That bank is going to assist us as the Department of Human Settlement to be able, for example, to implement your employer schemes for housing. We'll partner with them so that, for example, if you have communities that have workers that are sitting and do not have human settlement, but we will be able to subsidize in terms of making sure that they are affordable. Together with government employees, we're looking at ensuring that the bank is able to carry those low-cost type of bonded houses for South Africans, so that when they are not, this is what we will call the missing middle in the housing sector, where they are not qualifying to receive RDPs. They earn high enough for RDP, but they earn less enough to qualify for mortgages in commercial banks. And that bank will be focused on that category.
Speaking of housing schemes, a question was put to the department in Parliament. No, you were not there. The Deputy Minister should have been there. Residential rent relief scheme. How is it funded, and how are the beneficiaries sourced and selected?
Look, the schemes that we have, and I'm trying to understand what could be the issue there, Thabo, around that. And it's difficult because remember, when you attend portfolio committees, you find that somebody asks a question. It might not be even quite relevant at that time. When we have relief schemes that we're running.
Yeah. I think this one, Minister, was particularly for COVID-19, residential rent relief scheme. And the question was around how it was going to be funded and how the beneficiaries would be sourced.
No, we do not have a relief fund for rental. What was happening is that during COVID, that's why I'm saying you have to understand the context of these questions. Now, as you put it for COVID, what happened is that during COVID, what the Department of Government took as part of the regulation was that people should not be evicted if they are not paying rent in terms of where they are. So there was a moratorium that applied in terms of rentals or evictions, if you remember. So that was what was put there. And I think part of what people were lobbying for was that for the department to provide a relief scheme or a relief of some sort for people who are in that, and that was not provided. So we do not have such a scheme.
Right, Minister, let's take a final question then on Twitter tonight from our viewers. And this one, of course, around issues of human settlements. This is from Panazi saying, what plans does government have for rural development? Because lack of development creates overcrowding in cities. Why are rural communities neglected? I suppose you have addressed that in part in your previous answer.
Look, it's broadly around economic development, Thabo. One of the things is that we've got to work together, seize the opportunities of what local communities can be able to do, so that either it's around farming, either it's around making sure that there's projects that are happening, but also, I mean, part of what we have to learn is other nations, what they are doing. If you look at, for example, if you study China, how they've been able to do settlements and make sure that they are development. So there's particular focus in every province where you are able to say what becomes our niche in terms of economic development so that we can contain the people within the area, because people follow where the opportunities are. So if you have deep rural areas, but you are able to identify an opportunity, either you can say for agriculture or even for tourism in those areas, you are able to keep those people within those communities. So what we would have to do within the district development model is to enhance the work that we are doing around economic development in those rural communities.
And finally,
but migration, as we know, is a global phenomenon. We can never stop it.
And finally then, Minister, 40% designated allocation for women contractors. What are you doing? How are you reaching that target? And where are you sitting right now?
I must acknowledge on that, Thabo, that we are not doing very well. I mean, part of the briefing I received, because GM was, Deputy Minister Chwete was given the responsibility to oversee this. She's been doing roadshows in provinces, firstly, to alert them of this policy, that they've got to be able to comply. Secondly, to assess in terms of how are they complying with this. And the assessment tells us that it's not been happening very well. We are looking at various models to say how do we support, because part of the problem is that you find, yes, you have women contractors, quite very few have your level 7, your level 8, your what is it, in terms of being able to be graded in terms of the correct grading. You find them graded at 1, not at the level that you need to do. So we'll have to work in terms of maybe supporting them, mentoring in terms of partnering with big companies and give them the obligation to be able to mentor them so that tomorrow they're able to get those big contracts.
Minister, we appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us tonight. Human Settlements Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi there with us. And thank you for your questions tonight and being a part of this conversation.